do that.
Where are we right now?
7.
Which numbers are we at? So this one, 337, so we're gonna read it. Plus repeat. Do you want to just start and then we'll just play along? Okay. What are these three?
Okay, what's next?
You can choose anything. I have it all down here.
You want to do something with me on the piano?
Sure.
Yeah. I can play a little piano too.
Do you want to play?
Yeah, I'll play. Play. You have your clarinet with you?
I don't.
Maybe bring it tomorrow.
Okay, I'll write to you. So,
Or I can do some piano.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, Jessica, which one you want to do? 337. Just 2 times with 3 times with the brand.
Good evening. So glad that you came back for another wonderful evening, and we're so glad that Barbara has come back, right? How many of you were praying for her? Oh, that's a lot of prayers, and God answers prayers. So we are so glad that she's doing well. The night before last, she fell, knocked her head, cracked a few ribs. However, the Lord is good, and she's doing better today. So we're just really glad that she is here. There's a few announcements we need to make. Number one, this is Thursday night, and that means that the book sales are going to be ending tonight. If you want to buy a book from Barbara on the table, please make sure to know. Yeah. I was coming to it, Ricky. I was coming to it. Yeah. Got to build suspense. As I was saying, book sales are ending tonight. However, there is a period of grace. So if you are not able to get the books tonight, Saturday evening, we are going to have the books available for one last time. So you got two opportunities, tonight or Saturday evening, to get those books. If for some reason... And Sunday morning? Oh my.
God is gracious.
Grace upon grace. All right, so you can get books then, and also if you need to, you can go online to barbarao'neill.com, and there is a special code that you can enter online for free shipping, and that code is SAND2024, and if you enter that code, SAND 2024, it's valid for 30 days. You'll get free shipping on any books you order online. There is also some follow-up seminars that are going to be attached to this one. Why don't you share with us about that, Magda?
Yes, thank you. So we have, because we would like to continue mingling and talking with you all and continuing this wonderful event that we have started here. We have a Barbara O'Neill 7B Well group that is starting, and we will have, in December, we will have a potluck based on the cooking class that we'll have on Sunday. So we would love to have you guys join us. Please watch for the date. It will be either on a Tuesday or Wednesday, or Tuesday or Thursday in December. We will have that announced. We will have it sent out. We'll put it on our webpage. And then we'll continue on with a diabetes class based on some of the principles that we've learned. We'll have that starting in January, as well as a depression and anxiety program starting in the spring. So we have a lot of exciting things planned, which actually is starting this Sunday morning with the cooking class, as we have mentioned. So we're really excited to have you continue with us in those things.
Wonderful. Now, before Barbara comes out, we'd like to invite you to bow your heads with us as we open with prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the privilege which is ours to be here together to talk about this wonderful body that you gave to each one of us. I pray that you would bless the talks tonight. Thank you for hearing our prayers and helping Barbara to be back at these meetings. I pray that you would bless her and strengthen her and give her a clear mind so that she can share those wonderful messages from you. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, now we're going to start with our Q&A with Barbara O'Neill.
Thank you and welcome everyone. I apologise for not being here last night. I had a little bit of a crash and I've got a knock on the head and I've got a new hairstyle today. A couple of cracked ribs, but God is good, and when you look after the body you do bounce back. So starting with a few questions tonight, and I'm allowed to sit on the stool while I do question and answers. Do you have an opinion on the connection between mental health and diet? I do, and tomorrow night we're going to be looking at mental health. We're going to be looking at preventing Alzheimer's, and I will be discussing in more detail the link tomorrow night. If possible, could you please give a couple of simple meal ideas for a 2-meal day breakfast and lunch or dinner? Thank you. Well, very quickly, I'll tell you what I had for breakfast this morning. For breakfast, I had some of your local apples, very, very nice. I had chia seed, I had almonds and Brazil nuts. I usually have some type of fruit. It might change depending on the seasons. Then I had some sourdough toast with olive oil, cayenne pepper, avocado, and some savoury lentils. Now, when I have a breakfast like that, I do not get any hunger for at least 5 hours. But not everyone likes a savoury breakfast. Some people would prefer maybe a millet porridge. If you don't have any health allergy problems, you might have an oat porridge, but always have some fruit and always have some nuts and seeds. Lunchtime, what did I have for lunch today? We had a big salad with some nice greens and also some purple greens. We had some organic tomatoes. We had some green olives. We had baked sweet potato. And also Elise made us a very nice dish, which was red lentil spaghetti squash, I think you call it, and kale. So that was a very nice lunch. Now, eating meals like that, they're our main meals. Now, if I work very hard tonight and get very hungry, I might have a little something when I get home. It might be a banana, might be half an avocado. But most of the time, I find that if you eat a good-sized lunch and a good-sized breakfast, you don't need to eat again. But again, it depends on you, depends on your mental and physical output through the day. We were able to have lunch at almost 2 o'clock, and that means you can easily go without the evening meal. So that's a little bit of an illustration, but we should like what we're eating, and so it's got to be something you love, within reason, of course. Do you have an opinion on energy-enhanced systems? I guess people are referring to the electromagnetic or the electric impulse that some physiotherapists use and some osteopaths use to increase healing to a certain area. I don't use them, but I'm not totally against them. Maybe, if there's an injury, sometimes they can increase healing to the area. My gut microbiome and villi are extremely compromised, virtually non-existent when tested in the summer. Do you know the tests aren't always accurate? And maybe if it was tested a month ago, it'll be fine now. So don't totally depend on the tests because they can change. And to boost villi, fibre. The more variety of fibre you have, the more variety of microorganisms are fed, and that's one of the best ways. And also implementing in your meal program some form of probiotic. It might be a yogurt or a kefir, a sauerkraut, miso. All of those help with gut microbiome. In addition to the colon tea, we suggest colon tea if the person has problems with constipation. It can help there. Slippery elm, we advise if someone's got irritation in their gastrointestinal tract. How would you address plantar warts? Plantar warts can be broken down by a herb named thuja, Thuja. And thuja is a herb that has the ability to break down fine protein. So thuja cream can be brought and it can be put on a Band-Aid and put on the toe every night, or wherever the thuja wart is. It's usually on the feet. And little by little, it'll break up the plantar wart. I've known people that have had it cut out. It's been extremely painful, and then it's grown again because some of the root wasn't cut. I far prefer God's surgery, which is a lot easier. So the thuja is very good for that. How long will it take? I guess it depends on how long the plantar wart has been there, how deep it is, but it will do it. If it hasn't done it after a month, keep doing it. Might take another month. How would you address H. pylori? H. pylori is Helicobacter pylori, a bacteria that is sometimes found in the stomach, and it appears that Helicobacter pylori can get out of control when the hydrochloric acid is low, because one of hydrochloric acid's role is to wipe out unwanted bacteria. So my suggestion is boost your hydrochloric acid. And in both my books, Self-Heal by Design, I've got a chapter. It's called Hydrochloric Acid, the Stomach's Secret Weapon. And that's one of the reasons why, because of its ability to kill off unwanted bacteria. And also in Sustain Me, I have a chapter on the stomach, which goes through it. I've been noticing under my armpits for the last 2 years getting many dark moles, skin tags. Is this a blood sugar problem? Not that I know of. I would question, are you using deodorants? Do you exercise? What you're washing yourself with? Is it natural soaps? The clothes that you're wearing? So all of those things need to be assessed. And sometimes if the person's carrying a little bit too much weight, it's not enough air getting under the armpits. So I would investigate all the possible causes for that. What are your thoughts on chicken pox parties? My friend has toddlers who she wants them to get chicken pox, but she's pregnant. Is it a bad idea? Getting chicken pox when pregnant isn't that bad. It might be a little uncomfortable, but I don't think it's a great problem. But, you know, if I was pregnant, I don't think I'd want to get chicken pox. So maybe wait for the next party. What causes heart rate to beat faster, causing AFib? What can you do to calm it down? AFib is a reaction, and it can be a reaction to an allergy in the body. Two of the most common foods that can cause that are wheat, because wheat was hybridized in the 1950s, so it created a very complex protein or gluten structure, and often with some people there's a reaction like that. Also caffeine, because caffeine causes a crisis response in the body. And so if a crisis response can cause this, sometimes high stress can cause it. If a person's dehydrated, they're more likely to be affected by high stress. So you'd use the process of elimination and eliminate everything that may have caused it. And if AFib happens, then you've got to look at the last 12 hours. Look at what you ate. Look at how much you drank. Look at what happened in your life. And what can you do to calm it down? An ice pack on the heart. That's a simple one, isn't it? That's what Dr. Kellogg used. An ice pack on the heart slows and strengthens the heartbeat. You can put it on the heart, and if it gets painful, take it off. Put it back on. Gets painful again, take it off. Put it back on. Keep doing this until the body handles it, and you might just keep it on for even a minute. Also breath. Breathing in and out through the nose, and breathing in and out with your abdominal muscles, that long, slow, deep. What breathing in and out through your nose and breathing with your abdominal muscles does is it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your peaceful, calming nervous system. So breathing long, slow, deep. Oops, I got a couple of cracked ribs and they don't want me to breathe long, slow and deep at the moment. So I'll leave it up to your imagination. And also a crystal of Celtic salt and some water, because Celtic salt has 3 magnesium, and magnesiums relax the heart muscle. If a person has access to purely therapeutic essential oils, which oils would you recommend they have on hand? I know Young Living and doTERRA are probably 2 of the best quality oils that I know. And they have a set, a kit that they advise is a good one for the average home, and it usually includes lavender, which helps you sleep. It usually includes peppermint oil, which helps to relax the tummy if it's upset. So they usually have a good advice there on what you can use. So I'll let you check that out. Farms have chickens. Do you eat chicken eggs? Sometimes, but not much, and only if they're organic. But personally, I prefer lentils. I leave it up to the person, but if you're going to eat chicken eggs, they must be organic, because chickens and their eggs on a whole today are not a very healthy chicken or egg. To piggyback on the last question about my aunt, does taking Prolia and coming off it increase the risk over never taking Prolia? Prolia is a drug, and Prolia is given to women after menopause for osteoporosis. But in my last lecture today, I'm going to be looking at hormones, and I'm going to show you how a hormone balance strengthens the bones. There are side effects from Prolia, and I would never take Prolia. But in my book, Sustain Me, I've got a chapter called Building Better Bones. And you can look in that chapter on all the things you can do to build your bones. Do you have any recommendations for Raynaud's syndrome? Raynaud's syndrome, very interesting. You know what it is? Cold feet and hands. And notice they've just given a name. Do you know we've been given one title? And it's found in 1 John chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "Behold, what manner of love the Father has given unto us, that we should be called the sons and daughters of God." Got that? That's our only title. So if a health professional gives you a title, you know what you can say? "Thank you for your opinion." Got that? That's what it is, and it's opinion. I'm going to seriously consider this. So what's Raynaud's cold feet and hand? Cold feet and hand don't come overnight. Cold feet and hand are many years in the making. And it's usually because a person hasn't covered themselves well enough. They haven't covered their extremities well enough. And so then the body gets into the habit of having cold feet and hands. So if you have cold feet and hands, please do something about it. Don't put them in hot water, or you might damage the tissues. Put them in warm water and slowly build up to a little bit hotter. And when they're warm, then put the gloves on, then put the woolly socks and the slippers on. But often they get into the habit of being cold because they've been cold for too long. And one of the best things you can do for circulation is implementing an exercise program. But when you go out in the cold morning, make sure you're well covered. This morning when I went out in the cool, I had my possum socks, my woolen leggings, my woolen skirt. Yes, everything was woolen hat, wool. Because I'm only little and I get cold very easily, but I didn't get cold. And by the end of the walk, I'm a lot warmer because you're moving the circulation right down to your extremities. I've been diagnosed with rectal cancer. My entire digestive system has a lot wrong. I'm working with 2 naturopaths to heal naturally. I've also read your book, Self-Healed by Design, and a couple of other books on healing cancer. The suggested protocol around diet varies, and both naturopaths says no legumes, while yours say yes to legumes. Well, I'd like to ask the naturopaths why no legumes. Yes, they have lectins in them, but if they're well soaked and well cooked and well rinsed, that disarms the legumes, the lectins in the legumes. We have seen many people conquer cancer on the legumes. People have been eating legumes for centuries in India, in Asia, in Europe, in Mexico, and they've done very well. So they say no legumes, I say legumes. I guess you've got to search out. You've got to search out the facts on this situation. Can hawthorn berry be taken with carvedol med? It can. Can it be taken with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's? It can. It's a very safe herb, is the hawthorn berry. It can be taken with all those medications, and hopefully after lifestyle changes, the medications can be eased off. Is it important to do a liver cleanse? If the liver needs a cleanse, I guess it is. And if a person has liver pain or gall pain, they would benefit from a liver cleanse. When you make your smoothies, do you add protein? Well, I actually don't make smoothies. I like eating food. But I do know a lot of bachelors, they like to just have a smoothie for breakfast because they don't want to cook. So what protein would you put in? I know at our retreat, when we're supplementing on the detox days, we supplement with a protein powder and we use pea protein. You can get some very good pea proteins, hemp proteins, very nice plant proteins today. What you're looking for is that the pea protein doesn't have sugar in it. That's the worst. I've been taking hydrochlorothiazide for many years. I liked it because it reduced my water tension. I got some good news. Dandelion will do the same thing. Remember God said in Psalm 104 verse 14, he gave herbs for the service of man. Every drug has a side effect. Drugs never cure disease. And this lady says she's been taking it for years. Is it working? You should be able to change your lifestyle, take the herbs initially, and then not need to take anything because the body can do it. So the dandelion, and you can take that in high amounts, and dandelion is very safe. You can take it in capsule or tablet form. And if I was this person, I would look at my chapter on kidneys in Sustain Me, and it shows everything you can do to strengthen the kidneys, because the kidneys are the organs that balance fluid levels in the body. What is your opinion on carbonated drinks and sugar? We are told they're not good for osteoporosis. Do you know many carbohydrate drinks have phosphoric acid, which helps to break up bones, so we don't want that. And sugar leaches the minerals out of bones, so ideally you don't take them. What about carbonated flavoured waters with no added sugar or for artificial sweetening? Do you know, I think it's okay to have occasionally, but what we should be mostly drinking is water. Anyway, we can get some of your books brought to Clark Fork. I don't know what Clark Fork is. Sorry, I'm an Australian. How can you regain hearing loss after losing it? I guess much depends why it was lost. But in my book, Sustain Me, I have a chapter on ears, and you can look at that and all the things you can do to help hearing. Which mould is the most toxic for the body and why? Black mould is supposed to be one of the most toxic, but there is no mould that is safe for the body. And my book, Self-Heal by Design, explores that in detail. Steps to heal from polycystic ovarian syndrome. I have insulin resistance, high testosterone, unwanted hair growth, and much more. In my next lecture on hormones, I'll be discussing all that. Is the drink water with Celtic salt and exercise flowers, the insulin? Start again. Is the drink water with Celtic salt and exercise lowers the insulin? Is there something like this to higher the insulin? Do you know your body knows what to do? You don't have to do anything to lower or higher. All you need to do is give the body the right conditions and it will automatically balance itself out. Exercise, balance it. Drinking adequate water balances. The right food balances it. I love beans and lentils, but they don't like me. Gas and indigestion. When I married my husband, he could handle red lentils, he could handle lima beans and kidney beans. Couldn't handle chickpeas, could not handle brown lentils. So what I did was I just gave him a teaspoon. Every time I cooked them, I only gave him a teaspoon. He could handle that. And then after a couple of weeks, I gave him 2 teaspoons. A couple of weeks later, 3 teaspoons. Now he can handle it. So you just start small. And what I did was I effectively fed the microorganisms in his gut that help to deal with those legumes. Interesting. What do you recommend to improve your eyesight? I've got some good news. There's a book out there called Sustain Me, and it's got a whole chapter on eyesight. And I quote a book in there called Better Eyesight Without Glasses by Dr. William Bates. Nearly lost his license over writing that book. But he shows how you can strengthen your eyesight. I get leg cramps, not like Charlie Horse. I don't know what Charlie Horse is, but apparently it's cramping, yeah? We don't say that in Australia. Charlie Horse in the calf muscle. I have to tell the Australians that when I get home next week. These run up the sides of my legs, usually the right leg, sometimes my toes too, occasionally my thigh, extremely painful. I drink water and real salt for the minerals. Sip it all day long. What else can I do? Is this serious? No, it's not serious. Nothing serious. Everything's conquerable. But I like the Celtic salt and the Baja salt because they have 3 magnesiums. And it's magnesium that relaxes those cramping muscles. And I suggest having an Epsom salts bath before you go to bed. Epsom salts is magnesium sulfate, and also the heat just relaxes those muscles. Also, you can buy a topical magnesium oil that can be rubbed over the legs. You could take 500 milligram of magnesium citrate before going to bed, and often that will help. But also know that stimulants, especially caffeine, tobacco, alcohol, also a high meat diet, which are all stimulating, can cause a release or a dropping of your magnesium and calcium levels in your body. And also exercising every day, really exercising those legs, running up hills, exercise bike, rebounder. How to prevent calcified kidney stones. Going to a more alkaline diet. I'm sorry I wasn't here last night. Last night I was to speak on cancer and the acid-alkaline balance in the body, but I've got good news. Both my books list the acid-alkaline balance or levels and how to maintain them. And in Sustain Me, it's in the chapter Arthritis. And Self-Heal by Design, it explores in much greater detail what I could have spoken on last night on how to conquer cancer. I have heard great benefits from oxymels. Now, I'm not sure what oxymels are, but then it says herbs steeped in raw honey and apple cider vinegar, such as fibre cider or elberry oxymel. Please explain why you use apple cider vinegar. Well, actually, I don't use apple cider vinegar. And please know that on Facebook there are many people pretending to be me, but I'm not on Facebook. I've never been on Facebook, but apparently the team at Misty Mountain do some things on Facebook. It's called Real Barbara O'Neill. Now, someone's got the Real Barbara O'Neill, and someone else has got a Real Barbara O'Neill, so it's just Real Barbara O'Neill. Gallstones, how to get rid of them. I guess this is both gallstones and kidney stones can develop because of a high acid diet. So in my book, Sustain Me and Self-Heal, when I talk about the acid-alkaline balance, I look at how you can have a more alkaline diet, which certainly helps. And both my books, in the kidney section, I show how to get rid of kidney stones, and in the liver section, how to get rid of gallstones. I have increasing joint pains over the last several months, worse in knee, hip, back area. Is there any relief? Have been vegetarian, vegan mostly, thank you. In my book, Sustain Me, there's a chapter on arthritis, and it shows how going to a more alkaline diet can make a huge effect to reduce the pain in the joints, so you can look at that. What is the best treatment to cope with CPDTSD? Sorry, we'd have to have a look at that. And my time is up. But I will finish those tomorrow. Okay. Thank you. And so the first one we're going to look at tonight is child nutrition. And the way we ate as a child certainly influences our health status as an adult. So it's a good place to start. And even though we're not children anymore, it can explain why certain things happened in our body. But it also, and I'm sure each one of us has children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren or nieces or nephews or neighbours that can be helped by what I'm about to show you. Now, for child nutrition, really the time to start is before the couple even conceives. In fact, it is said that we should get on a good diet, clean our body up 2 years before we conceive. But not everyone has the privilege of doing that. In fact, one writer claimed that parents are the genetic engineers of their children. I've got some good news. If it's too late, you've done everything wrong and your children are in their 20s now, genetics may load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. We live in an incredible body with an inbuilt ability to heal itself. And even if we've done everything wrong, when we start to do everything wrong, I'm constantly amazed at how the body starts to revive and recharge. That's the good news. But let's look at how to start. So the lady in pregnancy, I do get messages from mothers that say, what can I eat in pregnancy? I said, what everyone eats. We should, and remember the 3 essential food groups. The 3 essential food groups, no matter who you are fibre. Fibre is essential because it slowly releases the glucose. Fibre is essential because it's in the fibre or parts of plants, and basically plants are where you get your fibre, especially your dark green leafy vegetables, very high in minerals. And minerals literally glue us together. Our bones are made of minerals. Our body's glued together by minerals. So fiber's an essential. Protein. And the best burning fuels in the protein department are legumes, nuts and seeds. And as I mentioned earlier, if you find that legumes cause gas, bring it back, bring it back, bring it right back, even to a teaspoon, until the body goes, yeah, I can handle that. Part of being your own doctor is doing this. You've got to listen. If it doesn't work, don't do it. Adjust, keep adjusting till it works. So it was last May when I was with Jacqueline at a conference, and she said, when we're looking at nuts, she said, I can't eat nuts. So what do I immediately do? Investigate. I was consulting with a man in Melbourne a few years ago. I said, what do you do for a job? He said, I'm a private investigator. I said, so am I. We should all be private investigators because there's always a reason. We might not fully find the reason, but as you investigate, you start to see some of the factors that could come together. And as we talked, I discovered that she had worked in a health food shop for a day. She didn't get a break, so you know what she ate all day? Nuts. A whole pound of nuts all through the day. And then it was only about a week later, if she ate a nut, she'd swell. So here we are, a couple of years later, she said, I can't eat nuts. And I said, try one. Try one. So she had one. And it worked. Next day, she had 2. Can you see what you're doing? Most people aren't prepared to do that. I knew why she had an allergy, and if she has a whole cup of nuts today, she'll swell up, but she can have about 6. So it's the same thing with the legumes. Don't overdo it. It would be sad to get a nut allergy. They're so nice. Most people don't eat nuts for weeks and then get a bag of cashews and eat the whole lot in the afternoon. Is that right? That's when they can get an allergy. I'd be very sad if I had an allergy to cashews. What's a good idea to do is have legumes every day. And if you're not quite used to them, build yourself up slowly. Yes, rinse them very well. Yes, cook them well. And at the end of every meal, 8 to 10 nuts, that's a nice amount. And also add some seeds, there's your protein. Protein, the building blocks of the body. And the membrane around every cell is 50% protein, 50% fat. And that brings us to the third essential nutrient, which is fat. Udo Rasmus has written a book, Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. I love the title because there are killer fats. But because there are killer fats, all fats have been thrown out. So what are the best fats? Well, let's go back a couple of hundred years ago before heart disease became out of control. And let's look at the fats that people ate then. Well, it depended where you lived. If you lived in the tropics, it was coconut oil or palm oil, and no one was dying of heart attacks. And then we go to the Mediterranean, it was olive oil. No one was dying of heart attacks. And then we come further up the planet, it might have been some olive and it might have been some sunflower oil. And further up the planet, you're probably looking at more dairy, especially in those northern European countries. And no one was dying of heart attacks. And back then it was raw and it was organic. And then right up the top of the planet, it was probably seal, fish, whale, and no one was dying of heart attacks. The problem today with animal fats is there's hardly a one that hasn't been tainted with the chemicals coming through the drugs that they're given, the chemicals come through the sprays on the grass that were sprayed 6 months before they ate the grass, and then, 80% of antibiotics go to the animals. Personally, I choose to eat plants, and the two plant oils that have been used for centuries, so they've passed the test of time, is olive oil and coconut oil. And both of those oils are extracted from the flesh of the plant. So women could easily extract them in their kitchens. When the Industrial Revolution came, they now started to use high heat chemical equipment to extract oil out of hard seeds. Now, when you go into the supermarket, one of the first things you see are these cheap vegetable oils in clear plastic bottles. They are the dangerous oils. Please don't touch them. It's better to spend a little bit more money and get extra virgin, first cold pressed olive oil. You'll find it in dark bottles because the light, heat and oxygen can harm it. And we don't need much oil, but we do need a little bit. 50% of the membrane around every cell is fat. Except for the brain cell, it's 70% fat. When we looked at the heart, and I trust I convinced you that fat's not the problem. The problem is these new oils that have been extracted using heat, which actually totally destroys the structure of the oil. So there your good fats is the fats that come from foods and the fats taking a little bit, the olive and the coconut oil. They're the three essential nutrients, so the pregnant woman would do well for the development of her baby to eat this. A lady contacted me recently and she said, my little baby's only 5 months old and I can't eat wheat and I can't eat oats and I can't eat peanuts and I can't eat dairy. I don't know what to eat. I said, well, there's a lot of vegetables, there's a lot of fruits, and there's a lot of legumes, but I know what she's saying. She's eating what we looked at a couple of times is that high carbohydrate diet. Cereal and toast for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, pasta for tea, cereal and milk for breakfast with sugar. That is what many are eating. And when that's taken away, they say, well, what do we eat? Well, actually, there's a lot you can eat. There's a huge amount you can eat. It takes a little bit more work, and I think that's why a lot of people have gone to the high carbohydrate diet, because it's in every shop, it's just there, isn't it? It's just easy. But what's the old saying? Choose your hard. Yes, it's a little bit hard to do a bit of preparation. I love cooking, but I do not want to be in the kitchen all day, because I also love gardening. I also love doing other things. But I know, and I'll be looking at this tomorrow when I look at the mind, I just got tomorrow, I've got to think about tomorrow, today. Oh, I've got to soak my lentils overnight. Oh, I've got to put them in the crock pot in the morning, da-da-da. You make a little bit of pre-planning and you're not in the kitchen all day, I can assure you. And salad, that's easy. All you do is chop it up. Baked potatoes, baked sweet potatoes, chuck them in the oven, place them in the oven. So, yes, it takes legumes a little bit longer, but you just got to prepare early. How long does it take to pour some lentils into a saucepan, fill them with water before you go to bed? What, 1 minute? It's actually not a lot of time. It's just pre-thought. But when the lady starts to eat like this when she's pregnant, it's going to be easy when she has her baby. And pregnancy is not an illness, and birth is not an illness. And I believe that most births should be done at home. The only time there's a problem usually is when a woman has fear. So I had most of my babies at home. All my children grew up hearing great birth stories. In fact, I think it was my last 2 babies, the children watched their little brother and sister being born. It's a natural part of life. And so when my daughters had babies, there was no fear. Yes, it's hard work. And so they had their babies at home or in birthing centres. I have 25 grandchildren now, I think. 2 of them are in this front row here. And I have 3 great-grandchildren. Can you see how we can pass it on? But when a girl grows up with scary birth stories, she's got this fear as she goes into labour. So it's very important to have a well-nourished body. It's very important to know about labour. And ideally, ladies, squat. Practice squatting early. And then the baby can be born without intervention, ideally. In fact, if a lady's going to labour, I say go in at the last minute. You see, I read a book about 2 years ago called The Midwife of Auschwitz. And this midwife was in her 50s. She was in the resistance. She was captured and sent to Auschwitz. And because she was a midwife, she delivered all the babies. She delivered 3,000 babies in 2 years. Never lost a baby. So what's happening in our hospitals? Because these women were suffering from the most severe form of malnutrition, in the most horrific environment, and she never lost a baby. One of the problems is intervention. Women are fearful and their bodies aren't well nourished, well stretched and well exercised. So the ladies should squat every day. They should get their bodies ready for labour, because a smooth, easy birth, that's a good start to life. And then when the baby's born, it's given the best environment. Please don't let anyone inject anything into your baby. If you're unsure, go to the pharmacist and look at what's in them. And if you're still unsure, the nurse or the doctor that does want to inject your baby, ask them to sign this piece of paper that they will be accountable if there's any reaction. I doubt if any new baby would get an injection if that was so. Then the baby should be given the breast as early as possible. In the first half hour of birth, that's when the sucking process or the sucking reflex is the strongest. So put the baby on early. The first 3 days, the baby will get colostrum. I was talking to a dairy farmer, and he said that if a cow dies when it's giving birth to a calf, he said we may as well put that calf down, because that calf, if it doesn't get that colostrum, that calf will be a sick calf. So it's very important to have that colostrum. In fact, the farmer said they even squeeze the teats from the dead cow to get that colostrum into that calf, or they try and find another cow that's just given birth to a baby. That's how important that colostrum is. That colostrum is very, very high in nutrients, in fats, That's high in fats for that developing brain, high in cholesterol, high in our microorganisms. So very important that the baby have that in the first 3 days of life. On the 3rd day, the milk comes in. Babies should be feeding like this. They should be feeding with their face to the breast, with their arms either side, because when the baby feeds like this, it drags on the nipple and the mother can get a sore nipple. If the mother gets a sore nipple, sometimes she will want to give up breastfeeding, but it is the best. There is no milk on the planet that equals the breast milk. And God made that milk perfect for every single age. So that's what babies should be getting. And ideally every 2 or 3 hours, that gives the mother's nipples a little break and also gives the baby's tummy a little break between meals. When should babies start eating food? 3 things have to be present for a baby to eat food. Number 1, the baby has teeth. Is that basic common sense? You know, there's been a death and no one attended the funeral because no one knew he died. It was the death of common sense. And Psalm 146 verse 3 says, "Put not your trust in princes, neither in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help." Who are the princes? They're the authorities in the field. Sometimes they get it wrong. When a woman breastfeeds, hormones are released that give her an inner sense of what is the best way to mother her baby. So the mother must never go against that inner sense. So the baby should have teeth. When do the teeth appear? Usually about 7.5 months. Very occasionally a little bit earlier, very occasionally a little bit later. There's no hard and fast rule. If I have learnt anything on my many years on this planet, it's never to be absolute. Got that? No baby's like your baby. Please don't compare it with other babies. Your baby is unique. And the best sign that your baby is getting enough is, number 1, lots of wet nappies. One lady said, "But I can't measure the breast milk. Is my baby getting enough?" Well, just that very utterance tells me your worry can inhibit your milk supply. Trust. Do you remember the other night I showed you the difference between faith and fear? Have faith in this incredible body with its inbuilt ability to heal and to produce enough milk for your baby. So I was in Papua New Guinea 10 years ago. And I was talking to a lady before my meetings, and she was about 15. She had a baby on her hip, and I said, "Your baby?" She said, "Oh, a street girl." See, in Papua New Guinea, in the highlands, if a young 15-year-old girl falls pregnant, she's thrown into the street. So I took her baby, and I'm raising her baby. And that baby loved that woman. No one could touch that baby. And then I'm lecturing later and I turn around and the lady's breastfeeding that baby. I just stop staring and keep lecturing and, whew, what's this? After the lecture I went straight up and I said, "You're breastfeeding the baby?" She said, "Yes." I said, "How so?" She said, "Well, I first got the baby, I was giving the baby formula, but every couple of hours I put the baby on the breast. I just kept putting the baby on the breast every couple of hours." She said it took about a month, but she said after a month I had enough milk and now I no longer give the baby formula. It's just breastfed. Now please feel free to relate that story. And that gives great hope to a woman that doesn't think she has enough milk. My daughter Emma, she's sitting in the front row here, she gave birth to twin girls 20 years ago and she breastfed them both. And she gave them no food till they were 16 months of age. But I remember Emma driving in the car, having this big gallon bottle of water and a tube and sucking water. She had to drink a lot of water. And those little 16 months old running around and they were only breastfed. You see, with breast milk, it's just demand and supply. The more you suckle, the more milk will be made. So whenever my babies had a fever, I knew it was important for them to be well hydrated, and usually I kept a break of 2 to 3 hours between meals, but when they had a fever, I just let them suckle all the time. And they suckled for comfort, but they were getting more liquid, because I knew that no matter how hot they got, if their brain was well hydrated, it would not convulse. And none of my babies convulsed. Mind you, if they got a little too hot, I'd put them in a tepid bath, not hot, not cold, and that would just bring the temperature down a bit. Do you know, we have lost common sense, isn't that true? You rush your baby with a fever to hospital, well, there's just been a car accident and Mum's having a cardiac arrest. Your baby's going to be put on the back hold a little bit. And how much can you do at home, in the peace of your home, to just put that baby in just sponge the baby down, just keep feeding the baby. Anyway, back to me feeding the baby like that for maybe 24 hours. And then the fever was gone, which they go. But oh dear, the next couple of days, I had so much milk. Why did I have so much milk? Because the baby had suckled at the breast every hour. So if a woman feels that her supply is low, she can just put the baby on every half hour. Just let it suckle, just let it suckle, just let it suckle. And it's not forever, it's just to build up the supply. See, with breast milk, it's just demand and supply. The more the baby suckles, the more milk will be made. So if the baby has got lots of wet nappies, then the baby is getting adequate milk. You can't use size because some babies are slim, some babies are roly-poly, some babies are average. I know my sister, she had a baby, her second baby, she hardly ever had a roll of fat. She was just a slender baby, but she was happy, lots of wet nappies. And then her next baby was roly-poly. So you get different body types. And yet so often there's this rule stick, and it must be in that. If your baby's happy, if your baby's milestones are happening, if your baby has lots of wet nappies, your baby is getting adequate. So when can the baby have food? When the baby has teeth, and that will be about 7 months, 7.5. And the first teeth that come are 4 at the top and 4 at the bottom. And they're called milk teeth. And do you know why they're called milk teeth? Because that should be baby's main food, milk. Where do I get the name milk tooth? That's what they've been known for centuries. Milk teeth. So the baby should have some teeth. The baby should be able to sit. Because when we're going to eat, we need gravity to be able to digest properly. And the baby should be able to feed themselves. Got that? Feed themselves. When would that happen? Oh, about 5-6 months they're putting things in their mouth. They're not sitting usually till 7 to 7.5 months. And so what should be the first food? I was reading the report of one dentist. He said the worst food to give babies is soft food. And yet, isn't that what the princes tell everyone to do? Soft food? Why soft food? Oh, they might choke. Do you know babies don't choke, they gag? So let me tell you the difference between choking and gagging. So the first foods I gave my babies were a piece of cucumber. And they had maybe 2 teeth or 3 teeth, and they'd nibble, and bits of cucumber all over the tray, all over the floor. A few bits would go down. It's just taste time. They're getting the flavour, they're getting the ability to chew. They're like little rabbits, chew, chew, chew. It's just taste time. Maybe next meal, piece of apple. And by the time we've finished our meal, they're just about halfway through that piece. And sometimes a little bit gets caught, and they make a lot of noise, out it flies. That's gagging. And that gagging reflex is perfectly normal. But when a child has only ever had soft food, everything's soft, everything's mashed, soft, soft, soft. And then when they're about 18 months and you give them a nut, and they have one bite, swallow, gets caught, and it's quite silent, and their face is going blue. That's choking. So most children that choke, it's because they don't know how to chew. And they don't know how to chew because they've only ever given soft food. And so, when does more food get given? So we'll just write this down. So the first 8 are called milk teeth. And those milk teeth, they can come through anywhere between 7 and maybe 14 months. Little by little, they come through. So that's a period of time where they're tasting a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this. But my son James was not interested in any food till he was 16 months old. And yet, lots of wet nappies. All these milestones are there. He's crawling and starting to walk and happy child. What did that tell me? All is good. But what some mothers are told today, that they must give their babies rice cereal 4 to 6 months of age. Have mothers heard this? Why? Well, the princes say that milk in the second 6 months doesn't have as much iron as in the first 6 months. Well, no, it doesn't. But have you seen how much a baby grows in the first 6 months compared to the second 6 months? They literally explode in the first 6 months. Whereas the second 6 months, yes, of course they grow, but not as fast a rate. In other words, the baby's need for iron in the second 6 months isn't as great as the baby's need for iron in the first 6 months. Getting back to common sense again, aren't we? And by the way, does God make mistakes? God never makes mistakes. That milk is perfect for that baby at every stage. And the mother does it because of this. Fear. Because the doctor says if you don't give your baby this cereal, your baby's brain won't develop, your baby's body won't develop. Well, do you know, sometimes the princes are wrong. Let's go back 200 years, 300, 500,000 years. Did you know babies didn't eat food? Did you know babies were breastfed sometimes till they were 3, 4 or 5? They didn't have blenders and all those machines that blend and grind everything up. No. The babies weren't fed food till they had teeth and could do it themselves. That's common sense. And one of the best things you can teach children is to be independent. And don't they want to do it by themselves? And so when my babies were up to the age of maybe about 12 months, I'd steam a bit of cauliflower, I'd steam a bit of broccoli, I'd steam a bit of carrot. This is if they were interested. James wasn't. And you know what happens? They pick it up, they see the colour, they feel the texture, and they can feel if it's too hot with their fingers. They won't put it in their mouth, and they taste what a carrot tastes like. They taste what a cauliflower tastes like and looks like, and the colour. They taste. Can you see the different foods they're tasting? So they develop their tastes. So I remember my daughter Emma saying that she went into her son Daniel's room. He's 10 months old. He'd woken up, and he's up at the windowsill eating all the ladybugs. They're in the windowsill. There are a couple of sticky dead ones on his cheek. Have you noticed they're not very fussy at that age? So how do they become fussy? You ever ask yourself? So when a mother says, my child is very fussy, I think, what happened? If you give a child a chocolate, are they going to want to eat an apple? No. If you give a child an ice cream, are they going to want to eat a bowl of salad? No. Do you know, we've got to come back to common sense. So if ever I gave my children a sweet, it was something that I made myself, and it was always after they'd eaten their meal. It was like a reward. You eat your salad, you eat your vegetables, you can have this. But if salad and vegetables have all they've ever eaten, you'll be surprised what children will eat when they're hungry. So now I'm going to give you the story of little Rosie. Little Rosie is a little girl we used to mind. She was only 2.5 and she would only drink fruit juice. That's all she'd drink. She was a thin little girl. She cried easily. Her parents had separated, so they were busy trying just to please her. And they said to me, that's all she'll have, is these little poppers, they were called. I said, oh, yeah? And they left. So I said to my children, let's see if we can get Rosie out of this one. Hide the little backpack with all the poppers, take Rosie for a walk down to the creek, and we had a beautiful clear running creek, and get lots of water. No, make sure she's well hydrated, and don't bring her back till 2 o'clock because we had our main meal at 2. So they brought little Rosie back at 2. My William was the same age as her, then Peter was 5. They were like her little servants in waiting all day long. They ran round Rosie helping her. And so they came in the door and she said, Papa, and my children went, look, it's lunchtime. It was peer pressure at its best. Sat her down at the table and we're all smiling. We said grace and then everyone into it. And she looked around, looked at the food and she started to eat. And she ate and she ate because I think she was very hungry. And she ate a whole meal. And when her father came to pick her up, he picked up the bag. He was a bit puzzled because it was heavy, full of all her little fruit juices. But it's also an illustration of how you'll be surprised what children will eat when they're hungry. You'll be surprised what they will eat when you don't make a fuss of them. So the best thing for children is that they're just part of a crowd. You know what? They've come into the world and they've joined the family. They haven't come into the world and they're put on a pedestal and worshipped. That really destroys a child. So the first teeth are milk teeth, and that's what I call taste time. Give them little tastes. Some are interested, some are not. If they're interested, give them little tastes, but try just to give them 1, no more than 2 at a time. And then between 14 and probably 22 months of age, that's when the molars appear. And the molars are the grinders. And the grinders grind grain. And what do we use to grind grain? We use a salivary amylase called ptyalin. And ptyalin is not present in the mouth in large amounts until the molars are through. Do you know what that means? Children should not be given this rice cereal. If they're given rice cereal when they're 5 to 6 months of age, they can't break it down. Because there's certainly no salivary amylase in the stomach, as we saw the other day. The only enzyme in the stomach breaks down protein. These salivary and also pancreatic amylases that break down starch, they are not present until the molars are through. And what we find is that many children are suffering with gut problems, absorption problems, because they've given starch too early. And I was reading the account of this dentist. He says the reason why jaws aren't developing properly, teeth aren't developing properly, the roof of the mouth's not developing properly, because people aren't eating crunchy food. Children should be eating crunchy food. And what the crunchy food does when they're young is develops the crunch, the chewing habit, which they will take with them all through life. That's why if the child's hungry and it's not quite mealtime and it's breakfast, because we do fruit at breakfast, give them an apple. Don't peel it, don't core it, just give them an apple. And how many people core it, peel it, or they might choke? Do you know, they're not stupid. Isn't that true? And when you give them an apple, oh, they are so proud that they've been given a whole apple that they can eat by themselves. They'll work it out. Yeah, a few bits of peel might come off, but if they're hungry, they'll be able to get into there. And if it's lunchtime, and they're hungry and lunch isn't quite ready, I give them a carrot. It takes a child a long time to get through a carrot. And that's all they've had is a carrot, so when you do serve lunch, they'll eat. I first started to give my children their main meal at lunchtime. I've got a photograph of James, my second child, at the age of 3, with his pyjamas on and his head down, sound asleep, next to his evening meal, plate of food. The best meal of the day, and he's fallen asleep. So that's when I started to give the main meal at lunchtime. Their dad wasn't happy, and I said, it's just easier for me, it's better for the kids, and I can warm it up for you at night. Well, he started to eat the main meal with us at lunch. But when children are going to school, that is not really possible to do. So what I suggest, because the old adage that we should eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, and supper, nearly said tea, it's supper, isn't it? I'm in the US. Supper like a pauper. Yes, sometimes paupers don't eat. Lunch like a queen, yes, and sometimes the king and the queen eat the same amount. And supper is light. So if supper is taken, it should be light. Pauper. And what I have found, that children are so much happier when you don't feed them all day long, because they've got gastrointestinal tracts just like us, and their stomachs need a break between meals. So I only ever fed my children, even my little ones, at the meal table. So when my little ones were, say, 18 months, by 18 months, they've got all their teeth, so now they're eating a balanced meal. So what would they eat? High fibre, generous protein, great fats. I never made special food for children or babies. Well, the fact was that I didn't feed my babies solid food. So by the time they've got all their teeth and they're eating a lot more food at the meal times, I might breastfeed them when they woke up. I might breastfeed them when they were maybe at about 11 o'clock, and they would go down for a sleep, and then they'd wake up and I'd give them a little bit of water or sometimes another breastfeed, and then we'd have our main meal. So I found that the little one that you might think can't go the distance, they're having a sleep late morning, and so that does allow them to go the distance. And I remember one day Peter used to get upset at the meal table. Say at breakfast, if the banana fell in the honey, he'd cry. And the rule was, if the children cried, they had to go outside. They couldn't make a fuss at the table. In fact, when we sit to eat, it should be a pleasant, calm environment. And I remember one day I had to send Peter out about 4 times, because then his spoon fell in the wrong part of the porridge. And then, I don't know, the banana fell in the wrong place or something like this. Do you know Peter now is a master craftsman? So this fussiness about his breakfast, he's now taken into his craft, and he's a highly sought after craftsman. So don't despair, parents. Sometimes those very frustrating character traits can actually prove to be a great blessing. But the rule was you couldn't stay at the table if you were going to fuss or if you were going to cry. And I remember I used to go to the door and say, "Are you going to be a good boy now?" "No." "Okay, shut the door." And we had our meal. A few minutes later, "Are you going to be a good boy now?" "Oh, I'm so glad. Come in." When you treat your children politely, they will treat you politely. And if ever they don't, I would immediately say, "Excuse me, what did you say?" You immediately take them to task. It cannot be. It cannot be. And then we'd start again. So it got to the point where he's 3 now and still crying at these things. I said, if you don't cry for the first 10 minutes of your breakfast, you can sprinkle carob powder on your porridge. So he tried very hard, very hard not to cry when the banana fell in the honey. But sometimes he'd have to leave so much that he didn't get a lot of breakfast eaten, and I'd think, I'm going to have trouble with Peter. He's going to be hungry in a few hours. And so, say 10 o'clock, Mum, I'm hungry. Okay, have some water. Have some salt. Often that can hold them. 12 o'clock, I'm hungry. You sit very still because you had a lot of water. You can have half a glass of organic soy milk. So for a little 3-year-old, that'll squash the hunger pangs. And now it's 1:30, we're having lunch at 2. I'm hungry. All right, if you sit very, very still, you can have a carrot. And you say it as if it's the greatest honour. All right, you can have a carrot. I would not give him food at 10, because then he's not going to be wanting to eat his main meal. And then if he doesn't eat a proper meal, then he's going to be hungry again. Can you see you've got to go ahead? And tomorrow, in my lectures on the mind, I'm going to show you the part of the brain where foresight is, looking ahead. Because you've got to be one step ahead of them. Because they will sometimes try and run rings around you. And so when the teeth are all fully through, then they start really to just eat the same food as you. I didn't do anything different to what I ate. But I always started with raw food because I found that that's the part of the meal that the children usually don't want to eat. They want to go straight to the porridge at breakfast or the toast. And at lunchtime, they want to go straight to the potatoes and the lentils and the cooked food. It's the raw food that they are least likely to eat. And so that's what I would serve first. And I noticed at lunchtime today, my daughter served her 2 little ones a plate of salad and some olives and some tomatoes. And they ate it all because they knew that they weren't going to get any of the baked potatoes or the red lentils with all the good stuff in it until they'd eaten their salad. And then there is no fuss. And also at breakfast time, you serve the fruit first. And when they've eaten the fruit, then they can start to have the others. With some children, they'll happily eat it all, but rather than make a fuss at the table, I usually do it like that. So when I first married Michael, Michael's a bachelor. He was a bachelor for many years. And as a bachelor, he was eating cereal and toasted breakfast sandwiches for lunch, pasta for tea. Well, actually, he had his main meal at lunch, so it was pasta and sandwiches at lunchtime. And so I knew that he and his 2 children were not used to having much raw food. So I knew I had to come in carefully. And so at breakfast time, I'd just serve the big fruit salad with a nut cream and sprinkles like chia and ground flax. And Michael and his children would sit down and they'd look at the food and you'd see them thinking, is this it? Is this all we're going to eat now? And Michael would say, is there any porridge? I said, almost ready. And the children are hungry, you haven't fed them since yesterday. So they eat, and when it's almost or half gone, then I bring the porridge out. And I do the same at lunchtime. They sit down and there's a couple of bowls of salad, and make them delicious, make them crisp. Have some delicious dressings there. Just your basic lemon and olive oil and crushed garlic and salt, and to make it creamy, you could put a bit of tahini in there. So, or maybe mashed avocado, that's really nice with garlic and lemon. So we sit down and you could see their eyes again looking. Is this it? Michael would say, are there any potatoes? Almost ready. They're almost ready. So they're hungry. They haven't eaten for 5.5 hours. They eat the salad. When it's half gone, oh, potatoes are ready. Oh, the lentils are ready. Do you know, he said to me years later, he said, I never realised what you were doing. Do you know, his little girl, Michaela, was 11, and she had quite a tummy on her because of this high carbohydrate diet they were eating. And in 1 month, she was slender. She was eating well, but they were eating almost 100% carbohydrates. You see, Michael can cook toast. That's it. He can cook toast. And his daughter Michaela at 11, she was doing the cooking. So it was just all pasta and porridges and high carbohydrates. Because digestion requires a peaceful environment at the table, that it's important for the cook of the home to be mindful of such things. So as the child grows, a lot of people are worried because many children are quite slim. And I have a friend who's a paediatrician, and she gets parents coming to her complaining that their child is underweight, too skinny. She says, your child is normal. There are so many children today that are overweight. Just stand by even just a primary school and just look at the size of the children that are going in. And it's alarming how many children are overweight today. And one of the reasons they're overweight is there's not a lot of activity. So it's very important that there be rules on the home on technology. A lady said to me, every year at Christmas time, like in a cul-de-sac, like it's just a little, the road goes nowhere, there's houses in this half circle. Every year the children come out and they show off their new bicycle, their skateboard, skates, whatever it is. She said, this year no one came out. Where are they? Thumbs. It's very sad. And there was a newspaper article and the front page said, children can't jump anymore. So I was intrigued, what's this article about? But of course it's catchy to catch your attention, so you'll read it. That they're finding that children's bones and muscles are not developing because they're spending too much time on technology. So their bones and their muscles aren't developing, and the bones and the muscles that develop in childhood basically are going to take us through adulthood. Did you know what the Russian standards are? These are the Russian standards on technology for children. I think it's under the age of 2, 0 exposure to technology. And how many adults give them to the children to keep them quiet? And do they keep them quiet? Oh yes, until you try and take them off them. Then the quietness you've had for two hours explodes in the next 10 minutes, is that right? So and at the age of 5 minutes. By the age of 10, 15 minutes a day. By the age of 15, I think it's half an hour a day. By the age of 18, maybe 2 hours a day, sort of school stuff. Would that be what's happening in America? Not at all. Not at all. So we're getting a lot of children who are getting addicted to this technology, and it's also harming their brains for a few reasons. Their skull is not as thick as ours, so the electromagnetic field from the devices goes in deeper, and it's also the content, and it's also the glazingness, which is almost like hypnosis of these children being fixed to this technology. But the other problem is that their bodies aren't moving. And I was talking to an optometrist, and she said to me, we are finding that children's eyes are deteriorating far too young. She said that by the age of 11, the short and long range muscles in the eye are set. But she said today, children are getting too much short range and not enough long range. And so that's affecting this setting of these long and short range muscles by the age of 11. One old doctor said to a friend of mine, he'd be dead now because this was 10 years ago and he was 90 then, he said, "We need to spend more time gazing at the mountains." So if your job is on technology, please every hour go and gaze at the clouds for 5 minutes. Go and gaze. If there's no mountains, and you've got beautiful mountains with white tops, I can't stop looking at them. I'm not used to snow-capped mountains. If there's no mountains, look at the tops of the trees, look at the clouds. And did you see a red sky tonight? Red sky at night, shepherd's delight. I do hear sunshine sometimes here in Idaho. We're looking forward to it tomorrow. So all of this are things that we need to think about today that no generation on the planet has ever thought about. A lady said to me, "My little girl, she's 7, and she's allowed half an hour on my phone on Sunday morning. But she said, every time I turn around through the week, she's got the phone." I said, "It's real easy. Every time she picks up your phone through the week, she loses 5 minutes on Sunday morning. Spell it out to her very clearly. Sunday morning comes, 'I'm ready, Mum.' 'Sorry, sweetheart, you've used it all up.' If there's a fuss, all you say is, 'Well, if you continue fussing, it'll be another week.'" You see, it's a powerful thing to use choice with children. Give them the choice. You don't say to a child, what do you want for breakfast? You know what you say to the child? "Would you like pear or banana on your porridge?" There's the choice. "For the salad, would you like the avocado dressing or the tahini salad dressing on your salad?" There's the choices. It's like my son, his new partner had a little girl. My son's never had little girls, he's only got boys. And they were going out, and this little girl was 7, and she didn't know whether to wear this dress or that dress. He's never heard of such a thing. So he went in, he picked 2 dresses out and said, "Which one?" When you give them a choice, they feel they have power over the situation. And so that's also an easy way to avoid confrontation. And at all, as much as possible, we should avoid confrontation. But sometimes there is confrontation, and that's when I think the best way, and I've trained my children this, is just cause and effect. There's a consequence for every action, and they choose. And that's why it's important to let them know. I think you can talk too much, but there's a consequence for every action. That's why I found my children behave very nicely at the table, because what did they know? That if they didn't, they would have to leave the table. And when you only feed them twice a day, and when you feed them 5 hours apart, they're hungry. And if you notice that children say, when they say they're starving, they're actually usually thirsty or they're bored. Because they don't really know what starving is, isn't that true? And also when you realise that those 3 essentials, the digestion of those 3 essentials takes 3.5 to 4 hours. So often that hunger pang that is experienced by adults and children alike is actually thirst. And they love salt. So I'd say to my grandchildren, when you drink a half glass of water, you can have a little bit of salt and then the other half glass of water. And I say to my grandchildren in the morning, "Have you watered your garden yet?" The garden down here. Sometimes they come in and they say, "Grandma, we've watered our garden." I say, "I'm so pleased. You're ready for breakfast." And then they help with the breakfast. Do you know, when you deprive children of work, you deprive them of the joy of accomplishment. And they love helping, and they love helping when they're here. And you'll notice that the child never comes into the room at 10 or 11 and says, "Well, I've decided to work now." No, it should be just part of their life. It's very important with training children with child nutrition to have this authority in the home so that your word is listened to. Because if it's not, you're not going to get them to eat anything good. And also, And remember, you're always kind, you're always fair, but there's always a consequence. And it's very important for the children to know what the guidelines are in the home. And I remember one of my daughter-in-law came to me and she said, I was going to have her little one, the 3-year-old, she said, we have discovered he needs to eat every 2 hours. I said, oh, that's interesting. And she left. I gave him a good-sized breakfast, millet, the other children were there, and honey and organic soy milk and chopped banana on top, and they love the sprinkles, and then a slice of sourdough toast and avocado and lentils like Pa and Grandma. I can assure you they're not wanting food for a long time after that. And then they're playing all morning, and you make sure you give them water, and you smile the whole time, here's water. I don't want water. Oh, I'm so sad you won't be able to have lunch. See, smile the whole time. Do you know, when you smile, you tell the child, I love you. You see that? When a parent gets angry with a child and yells at a child, you know what the message is? I don't like you. But you will find if the parent is well, or the adult is well hydrated, well slept, well fed, their emotions calm down. And there was one question there, you'll notice the link between diet and mental health. Absolutely, we're going to look at that tomorrow. But you'll find that the parent will have more control, more calm. And we'll also look at that aspect tomorrow. And then if the child makes a fuss, oh, sorry, so sorry you've chosen to go outside for the meal. Shut the door. And if they kick the pot plant off the veranda, they pick the pot plant up. Yeah, smile. Can I come back in? Oh, when you've picked the pot plant up. Go. What if they cut their finger? They'll be more careful next time. You've got a Band-Aid ready. See, it's just cause and effect. This is how they learn. And as you'll find out tomorrow, this is how you strengthen intellect, by strengthening common sense in a child. And how you strengthen common sense is get them to think for themselves. And I remember I was at Emma's once, and her little boy Seth, I think he was about 5, and he had to take the compost up to the chook pen. And he picked it up and said, it's too heavy. Have you noticed how they act? So Emma said, well, just do 3 steps with this arm and 3 steps with the other arm. Now, if the adult says, I'll take it for you, sweetheart, do you know what they've just said? You're hopeless. Oh, but I'm just trying to help them. You're not. They acted. You have a look. That compost bin is not near as heavy as that rock that they picked up, and they're so proud they picked up the rock. You know, it's twice as heavy as the compost bin. Have you noticed? Have you noticed? So these are simple things, and they're guidelines. My husband and I did a parenting course, and if you Google Self-Heal by Design, you can download our 6-part parenting course. We start with the relationship between mum and dad, which is vital. Then we look, I think, at birth to a year, and then we look at childhood, then we look at adolescence, teenage years, then we look at single parenting, and then we look at grandparenting, something like that. Anyway, it's about 6 series, so it goes for about 6 hours. And we explore all of these in much more detail, because we're alarmed at how many unhappy homes there are today. And it's usually because children are given too free a range, allowed to eat whenever they want, allowed to do whatever they want, and it's not a happy home. Children are very happy when they know exactly where the guidelines are in the home. But it all starts with proper nutrition, as I showed you. As a baby, keeping routine, I discovered very early that children love routine. They love doing the same things at the same time every day because their body gets used to that. And so I trust you've enjoyed child nutrition, and I trust you were a little surprised that we went in a few areas other than food, because it's all part of raising children. We're going to have a short break now at 7 o'clock, so we'll come back at 10 past 7 and we're going to look at hormones. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back, where we're going to look at hormones. And to begin our lecture on hormones, I've just written up a very important lipid in the body. And what have the prince has been telling us for the last 30 years? This is public enemy number one, is that right? And yet, as Dr. Malcolm Kendrick says in his book, The Great Cholesterol Con, he says for the first time, normal levels of a normal vital body substance is being called a disease. And the fact is, if your cholesterol levels are too low, you can't make your hormones, because our sex hormones are made from cholesterol. And in the body, from cholesterol, the body makes pregnenolone. And from pregnenolone, the body makes the key hormone, very important hormone, it's called progesterone. And progesterone is given the nickname mother, because it's from progesterone that the female hormones are made. It's from progesterone that the male hormones are made. So estrogen comes from progesterone, often called the female hormone, and testosterone comes from progesterone. In fact, mother hormone, testosterone, she plays a protective role in protecting testosterone. And so many men that show problems with hormones, what would they be? That would be low sperm count, that would be erectile dysfunction, inability to hold an erection, that could be prostate problems, it could be too much of the female hormone can cause a man to be effeminate. All of those problems often arise because of a lack of the mother hormone. Because mother hormone, progesterone, she plays a protective role on testosterone. And mother hormone also keeps estrogen, the female hormone, where it should be. You see, estrogen's role in the body is that of a cell proliferator. Cell proliferator means causes massive cell growth. And this is important when the skinny young girl is developing into a beautiful, shapely woman. That's important. But if estrogen levels remain high, that beautiful, shapely woman can get out of shape. I liken estrogen to fire and water. Good slave, bad master. And what progesterone does as mother hormone, she actually keeps the estrogen in the levels that it should be. Progesterone also is called happy hormone, because progesterone, mother hormone, has a calming effect. And there's a saying in Australia, which most women don't like, it's called happy wife, happy life, but it's actually true. If we've got a happy lady in the home, that affects everybody in the home. And there are many ladies who are not happy because they're lacking progesterone. And what we're going to do this evening, we're going to have a look at why. Because Proverbs 26 verse 2 states that the curse causeless shall not come. In other words, no problem happens without a cause. So we've looked at what happens when testosterone levels are disrupted in a man. What about when estrogen levels go too high? What are the symptoms of a female having too much estrogen? Very early periods. Do you know that 16 to 18 is normal, and you hardly ever hear of that today? We're getting young girls getting their periods at the age of 9. It's almost like they've lost half their childhood. Another symptom of a hormonal imbalance in a female can be very heavy periods, very painful periods. Endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids in the uterus. Whenever you're getting growths in the reproductive organs, it's an indication that estrogen level is too high, because that's what it does. It's a cell proliferator. So this can also be growths in the breast, to the point of breast cancer, to the point of uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, cervical cancer. Eek. So this imbalance in the hormones, it's causing major problems. High estrogen can also oppose thyroid function. How many women are we seeing today with thyroid problems? And when that progesterone's lacking, that can be anxiety, can be panic attacks, can be depression. In Proverbs 11, first 1, it says, a false balance is not good. We need a balance, and our body runs according to precision balance. So what I want to look at is, how does this monthly cycle run? And then we're going to look at what throws the cycle out, because the cycle has been thrown out. If it wasn't thrown out, we wouldn't be having all of these problems that I've just cited to you. So we're going to look at the monthly cycle. It's a 28-day cycle. First day, 7, sorry, 7's not there. 7 is here, 14, 21 and 28. There's the 28-day cycle. I'm going to show the monthly cycle because every woman and every man comes from a woman. And the balance of the cycle affects the way that man and woman develop from children. And there are two main players in this monthly cycle. One is estrogen, and we're going to put a bit of colour in here. Estrogen is going to be wearing a red outfit. This has decided not to, maybe it's this one. Aha. We've got our red. Estrogen's going to be wearing a red outfit, but progesterone is going to be wearing a green outfit. I thought I had it down to pat. I'll just use my finger. Okay, not sure why it's doing that, but that's what it's doing. And what's that one? The first day of the monthly cycle, estrogen levels. Okay. I'll just use my finger. Estrogen levels are low. Now, this first day of the cycle is the day that a woman begins to menstruate. So day 1 of the monthly cycle, estrogen levels are low. But by day 14, estrogen levels are rising. Estrogen is now the star player in the dance of the hormones. And I'm going to show you the effect that estrogen has. So we're going to draw the reproductive organs of a woman's body. Here is the uterus, here is the cervix, there's the birth canal, these are the fallopian tubes that come out of the uterus, and the ovaries are connected to the uterus by a ligament. Dr. John Lee, who was probably one of the first doctors that blew the whistle on this hormonal imbalance, he likens the monthly cycle to a dance. And I'm going to liken it to a dance. Different players come onto the stage at different times of the month. And so at this time of the month, the second week, with the rise in estrogen, Estrogen, with its cell proliferator action, is causing massive cell growth in the lining of the uterus, once again building up the blood nest, because remember the first week it came away. Estrogen is also causing massive cell growth in the ovaries, causing eggs to fully develop. Estrogen is also causing a form of lubricant to develop in the birth canal. Now, by day 14 or 15, a fully developed egg bursts forth from the ovaries. And the fallopian tubes with their little filaments on the end pick up the egg, and it moves up, up, up. The fallopian tubes are ever moving like this, causing the egg to move up, up, up. Now you can see by what I just showed you that there is no need for estrogen anymore. We've got our blood nest, we've got our egg, we've got our lubricant, and so estrogen can go backstage now. But where the egg bursts forth, a little blister is formed, and that little blister is called corpus luteum. And corpus luteum is the main site of progesterone production in the woman's body, and that's why I've drawn it in green. Can you see the importance of a woman ovulating every month? Because when a woman ovulates every month, corpus luteum's made, and when corpus luteum's made, that maintains mother hormone. And I've shown you the importance of mother hormone for the male and female hormones, and also for maintaining a woman's mood. And so, at this time of the month, around day 14, we have a rise in progesterone. Progesterone now becomes the star player in the monthly dance of the hormones. So what effect does progesterone have? Progesterone has a ripening effect on the lining of the uterus, putting the finishing touches on the uterus. But progesterone has another effect. Progesterone has an effect on the cervix. The cervix is like a soft cushion, and this soft cushion has a little hole in the middle with a little mucus plug. So looking sideways, we see that the sides of the cushion are big and soft, and there's a mucus plug there. With the rise in progesterone, the cushion sides come up a little tighter, and a special form of lubricant is released around the cervix, and this lubricant is designed specifically to facilitate the entry of sperm up into the uterus. So you can see that the stage is set for the entry of man. Did you know that between 2 and 5 million sperm are released with one ejaculation? It's the smallest cell in the human body. And if that sperm meet this top cervix, difficult to gain entry, but it's so small, a few do. But if the sperm meet this cervix, this lubricant literally grabs that sperm and shoots it up. And it's got a long way to go. Long journey. And some of them go down the wrong road and basically die and get absorbed into the body. But some of them go down the right road. Aha, they've found their prize, which is the egg. The covering of the egg has folds like this, and the sperm must nudge its way into one of those folds. It's not easy. And once it gets in, then all the other folds shut tight, and chemicals are released that kill off any other sperm that might try and gain entry. What an incredible body we live in. Did you know that within a matter of days, there's the division to the first two cells, and the DNA of a new human being, perfectly intact, is in those first two cells. There's a lot of discussion about when life begins in Australia. Is that discussion happening here in the US? My husband calls it the great pretend. He said, "Oh, it's not a baby in me, it's just a bunch of cells." Who are they fooling? The DNA of a new human being that never has been and will never be again is perfectly intact within a week of the sperm entering the egg. I think there'll be a few surprises on the resurrection morning. In fact, most women don't even know they're pregnant until the next period doesn't appear. And by then, they could be 3 weeks pregnant. So what happens when a woman falls pregnant? What happens with conception? What happens is testosterone levels soar, sometimes 400%. Don't we often say when a woman's pregnant, she's just blossoming? Her progesterone levels are nice and high. But if she's not blossoming, it could mean that she's lacking progesterone, and we'll look at why that would be so as we go through our presentation. Now, there is one progesterone, but there are actually 3 estrogens. Let me show you. There's estrone, and estrone is given the short name of E1. There's estradiol, and estradiol is given the short name of E2. And there's estriol, and estriol is given the name E3. Estrone and estradiol both have strong cell proliferator action, whereas estriol, it's called the delicate estrogen. And in pregnancy, it's estriol levels that rise. So in pregnancy, we've got the little heart estrogen. Now, if there was no conception, then by day 26, estrogen levels have dropped. And if there was no conception, then by day 26, progesterone, what happened there? Progesterone levels have dropped. And when progesterone and estrogen levels drop, the blood supply to the uterus is cut. And when the blood supply to the uterus is cut, the blood nest comes away, and we are once again at day 1 of the monthly cycle. That's what the monthly cycle should look like, but unfortunately today it doesn't look like that in many women. Why? We'll have a look at that. But first of all, I want to comment for a moment on sperm. Did you know sperm is an alien for the woman's body? And when sperm enters a woman's body, her immune system rises to attack. But when sperm goes through the prostate gland of a man, it takes on an immune suppressant property. So when woman's immune system rises to attack, the immune suppressant property of sperm knocks back her immune system, and sperm survives. But woman's body has memory, and every time her husband's sperm enters her, her immune system rises to attack, and it says, "Oh, it's all right, it's husband, we'll just stand back." What an incredible body we live in. And also what an incredible body we live in that has the ability to adapt and adjust. But can you imagine how dangerous it could be if a woman has multiple partners? Big contributing factor to cervical cancer because of the damaging effect on her immune system. And can you also imagine for a brief moment how dangerous this can be in the area of anal sex. We've got an immune suppressant substance going into an area where it should never be. But what I'd like to look at now is what's causing this disruption. What's causing the disruption in hormones? So let's make a list here. Number one, what colour have I got? Number one, you're supposed to be red, supposed to be white. I think I've got white. One. Yes. Sorry, I'm still getting there. I reckon by Saturday I'll have it down to pat. So number one, what's causing this disruption? 1957, the first contraceptive pill was introduced to women. The 1960s is called the sexual revolution. Now I can say that word. The pill was hailed as freedom for women, but what women don't realise, that this so-called sexual freedom is causing so many problems in men and women. In fact, one writer in Australia, she called it the mass murder of millions of women. What is the pill? The pharmaceutical companies grow acres and acres of Mexican wild yam. And Mexican wild yam contains a plant chemical called diosgenin. And in a laboratory, diosgenin can be converted to progesterone. It's called progesterone because it has an identical molecular structure to the progesterone that is made in a woman's body. So the pharmaceutical company cannot patent that. They have to create something new. So they add a few more atoms in one area and come up with a synthetic estrogen. And this synthetic estrogen was what was in the pill for many years. But in the 1980s, they started to see problems. Estrogen, with its cell proliferator action causing massive cell growth in the uterus, fibroids, cysts on the ovaries, endometriosis, lumps in the breasts. So they had to quickly go back to the drawing board and see what they could do. So they add a few more atoms in another area and come up with a synthetic progesterone, because it was acknowledged that progesterone played a protective role. But it's not the same as progesterone, otherwise they couldn't patent it. It's called progestin or progestone. Has that helped? No, because now this synthetic progesterone competes with our progesterone on the progesterone receptor sites. But let me explain the danger of the pill. And I know that I'm what's called a baby boomer. I was born in 1953. So by the 1960s, 70s, every girl I knew was on the pill. And what women do not realise, and what we never realised, is the dangers. So what is the pill? The pill tricks the body with these synthetic hormones into thinking it's pregnant. So it stops releasing the egg. So if it stops releasing the egg, corpus luteum's not made. And so month after month, after year on the pill, no corpus luteum, too much synthetic estrogen. What's happening to estrogen? Estrogen is now going too high. Estrogen with its cell proliferator action, again, causing the growths, causing the fibroids in the uterus, causing the cysts on the ovaries, causing the endometrium to wander all through the abdominal wall. That's endometriosis. And every month when that woman experiences the drop in her hormones and her blood nest bleeds, all these pockets bleed, but they've got nowhere to go. That causes excruciating pain. One 25-year-old girl came to our program. She says, "My doctor says I'll be all right when I go through menopause." She's 25. What's that? 25 more years of pain and suffering? You see, doctors are not taught herbs. It's not a health industry, it's a sickness industry. I'm not against doctors. Some of my best friends are doctors. I believe most doctors are ethical, but the pharmaceutical company is not. So what's happening month after month on the pill with this rise in this synthetic estrogen and drop in progesterone because corpus luteum's not made anymore? What's happening to progesterone levels? What's happening to progesterone levels is they're down here. And what's happening the month before the girl gets her periods? She's biting everyone's head off. One lady said to me, well, I said to her, "Do you get premenstrual tension?" She said, "No, I just bite my husband's head off for a week every month." She's got it. I've got some good news. It's not normal. Tonight you're gonna learn how to turn that around. And by the way, if the woman's been on the pill for many years, her progesterone levels are down. She goes to the doctor, he wants to put her on antidepressants, doesn't he? I was reading an article recently, it's called The Depressing Effect of Antidepressants. You have a look at the side effect of antidepressants. Many have them in their side effects listed, suicide. Tomorrow we're going to look at that in a little bit more detail. And I'm going to show you, yes, even such things can be controlled. And you can see by what I'm showing you here, boosting progesterone, mother hormone, up to where she should be, does much to boost happy hormones. But what we're looking at now, we're looking at what's causing the problem. I think I lost a screen. There it is the contraceptive pill. And so the woman's going through menopause, she's got hot flushes, she goes to the doctor, and what does he do? He puts her on hormone replacement therapy. What's that? More synthetic hormones. 6 years after being on the HRT for 6 years, she's got a lump in her breast. She has it tested, she's got breast cancer. She's taken off HRT immediately. Why? Because the doctor knows that it can cause breast cancer. And if you say to the doctor, well, why do you do that? He said, because it brought her relief. And it is true, she was getting terrible hot flushes. She took the hormone replacement therapy and the hot flushes stopped. It just masked the problem. Instead of pushing the estrogen to capillary dilation in the skin, it pushed it internally. He said, well, it gave her relief, and not every woman will get breast cancer. That's true. But if you say to the woman, what would you prefer, breast cancer or hot flushes? What's the answer? Bring on the flushes. I'll just change my clothes 3 times a day and get a black lace fan, and I've seen many black lace fans. But what I'm showing you tonight will show you how you can actually turn it around. Because the body loves to restore our balance. It just needs the right conditions. But many people have never been on the pill or HRT, and they have obvious hormonal problems. What causes a chicken to be fully developed in 5 weeks? Hormones. What they're even doing now, it's illegal to give the chickens hormones, so they've genetically modified them to produce more estrogen so they grow quicker. If you want chickens, you want healthy chickens, you almost have to go and find a 100-year-old farmer who's still got chickens that his father and his father before him raised. What about meat? It's against the law in Australia for cattle farmers to give their cattle growth stimulants. But one cattle farmer's wife did our program. She said they knock on our door every month pushing the growth stimulants. She said we don't do it, but most do. Because the cattle grow quicker, which means they can get them to market quicker. But you know, those cattle farmers don't eat that meat. They have their own cows. If it's in the meat, if it's in the chicken, it's in the product, it's in the egg. What about organic? What about organic free range? Certainly it's far superior. There's no doubt about that. Number 3, plastics. Because I have seen some people with major hormonal imbalances. They've never been on the pill, they're vegetarians. It's plastics. And it's coming in so many ways today. When I was a little girl of the 60s, everything I wore was cotton. And when I went, except for winter, I wear a woolly jumper. You know, you call it a sweater. And when I went to school, my sandwiches were wrapped up in greaseproof paper in a brown paper bag. And the milk was delivered to the front door in a glass bottle. Things have changed, haven't they? We're awash with plastics. And I'm shocked that every motel I stay in, every hotel, every home has got polyester blankets. Do you know they're plastic? Polyester, nylon and acrylic, they were created in a chemical laboratory. You go into Target, you go into those big shops, you try and find clothes, especially children's clothes, that don't have polyester, nylon and acrylic, but we the consumer have power. What we buy is what they will supply. When I was in the Baltic Sea in Germany, I was walking along the edge of the sea and there's lots of little cafes with little tables and chairs. It was a bit cool. So all the chairs had a blanket on them. So people could sit out and put a blanket on them. I thought, oh, that's nice. I went up close, I touched the blanket. Polyester. Someone has made a fortune out of polyester blankets. Aren't I right? Many are sick through ignorance, not realising. A lot of people like them because they're light and they're soft. They're toxic. They actually attract more toxins into them from the air. And you know another problem, there's no way to get rid of them. They don't break down in landfill. Wool and cotton do, but not these plastics. Be careful what you're eating. Be careful of the food that you're eating, what it's stored in. Be careful what you're drinking. Make sure it's stainless steel. Or you can get a plastic that is BPA free. Because what these plastics have in them is nonylphenol. And estrogen has a phenyl ring. And so the other one is bisphenol A, that's BPA. My bottle is a hard plastic bottle, it's BPA free. They both have the phenyl ring. And remember, estrogen has that phenyl ring. So they mimic estrogen in the body, the plastics. And ladies, have you had a look at what your bras are made out of? It's scary. There's hardly any that are made out of cotton or natural fibre. Remember, viscose is bamboo. And Trader Joe's in Coeur d'Alene, they have a stand of Boody, B-O-O-D-Y, underwear, underpants, bras, petticoats, leggings, tops, all made out of bamboo. So that's good news. So this is also contributing to it. Also chemicals. Be careful what you're washing your bathroom with, what you're washing your clothes with, what you're cleaning your dishes with. It's time to get a magnifying glass and have a look at what is in those cleaning products. The good news is, in places like Trader Joe's, you can get You can get biodegradable washing detergent, biodegradable laundry detergents. So you can get safe things. Herbicides, insecticides, go organic as much as possible. I'm quite happy when I see a caterpillar in my lettuce, because what does that mean? Don't panic, it's organic. If the caterpillar's dead, that's a bit scary. For some people, it's all of these. For some people, it's majorly one or the other. That's why you're the doctor. But if you don't turn the tap off, you're still going to be mopping up in the other corner. So number one, to turn this around, we have to eliminate. In my book, Sustain Me, there's a QR code and you can push onto it and it'll give you a chart, ladies, that will show you how to determine when you're ovulating. Because sex is two-part, so contraception should be two-part. And the woman's role is to know when she is ovulating, and her body will give her 3 signs. Her temperature will change, and it'll change around day 14. What she does is every morning before she gets out of bed, she takes her temperature and she monitors it. And the QR code will give you charts. The second one is her vaginal mucus will change. So when progesterone goes high, then the lubricant is much more profuse and clear. But when estrogen's high, it's not clear, it's more white, it's not as profuse. It's a matter of a lady testing it every day and charting it. So temperature's one, the lubricant is the other, and the third is the cervix. So she needs to just test her cervix every day. At first she's got nothing to compare it to, but as the weeks and months go by, she starts to see the changes. And she will discover in most women that she will ovulate this week here. So she says to her husband in the second week, I'm safe. In the third week, I am not safe. In the fourth week, I'm safe. But these signs will allow her to define it. So when she is not safe, then her husband can master the art of withdrawal or wear a condom. And my daughter Jessica and her husband Matthew, they were married for, I think, 3.5 years before baby Amethyst came. How nice. How nice to be able to arrange exactly when you're going to have your baby. But as I showed you, that contraceptive pill, that is causing major problems, not only in the woman that takes it, but in her offspring. So the woman that took the pill, it's her daughter that has breast cancer in the age of 30. It's her daughter that's endometriosis. It's her son that has low sperm count. So can you see it's coming through the line? It's in the genes, but why is it in the genes? It's in the genes because the mother was on the pill. And the mother must never take responsibility for that because she did not know. And in Acts chapter 17, verse 30, the Bible says, God winks at our ignorance, so should we. You did not know. So you can't be held accountable. But the good news is you can turn it around. But the first step is to eliminate anything that could be causing the imbalance. Number 2, our liver has the ability to release excess estrogen out of the body, and it'll do it down one or two pathways. And the pathway that releases excess estrogen is stimulated by the cabbage family, and the cabbage family contain indoles. And indoles are a plant chemical that stimulate the release of excess estrogen. So it's as simple as eating something from the cabbage family every day. Maybe broccoli, maybe cauliflower, maybe red or green cabbage, bok choy, kale, Brussels sprouts. Also, vitamin B6, vitamin B9 and vitamin B12. These are the 3 B vitamins that stimulate the liver to release excess estrogen. If someone has a major imbalance, they may need initially to take supplements of that. But also licorice, if you've got high blood pressure, forget the licorice because it can boost blood pressure a little bit. Number 3, wild yam cream. Psalm 104 verse 14, the Bible says that God gave herbs for the service of man. So we thank God for the availability of the wild yam. Now remember back here, I'll show you, no, this one here, is that the pharmaceutical companies grow acres and acres of this Mexican wild yam because it contains this plant chemical that in a laboratory it can be converted to progesterone. And so what people who are making the yam cream do, they take the wild yam and they process it to get the diosgenin out, so it's in the wild yam cream. And when that yam cream is applied to the skin, the fat cells take it up. And when the fat cells take it up, it stimulates this pathway to produce more progesterone. And that's all that needs to be stimulated, because when you boost mother hormone, she now protects testosterone. When you boost mother hormone, she brings the estrogen back under control. And so boosting progesterone by applying this yam cream, it once again brings us back to the original cycle, the original balance. How long would that take? With many women, it might take a year, it might take a year and a half. If a woman's on the cream for a year and then she stops and her symptoms return, what's her body saying? Bit longer, please. Because remember, what's important is to listen to the body. So the woman applies it. Now, my daughter Emma, she has a website, barbaro'neill.com, so that's easy to remember. And you can order the Comfort Yam Cream. And the Comfort Yam Cream is a cream that is made in America. And the Comfort Yam Cream contains the diosgenin, and it's all organic products. And it's 2 pumps for the jar. One day inside of this arm, in the morning, in the evening, this arm. Next day, chest. Next day, abdomen. Next day, one thigh. In the afternoon, the other thigh. So it's applied twice a day, 3 weeks a month. So it's applied for these 3 weeks here. And it's applied for these 3 weeks when progesterone is highest. If a woman is not menstruating anymore, she chooses 1 week of the month where she doesn't apply it. So a lot of women find it's easier just to eliminate the first or the last week of the month. Now let's say you're interested in getting this cream and you do get it. Maybe you'll start applying it on the 1st of December, and then you can eliminate the last week of every month. It's just easy to remember that way. If you're between 9 and 90, this will work. Why would a girl start to apply it at 9? If she starts to got her periods at 9, that indicates a hormonal imbalance. If she's got heavy periods, that indicates a hormonal imbalance. If she has endometriosis, fibroids in the uterus, cysts on the ovaries, all these growths are because of estrogen going too high. When you boost progesterone, that automatically brings the estrogen down. If a woman has thyroid problems, boost estrogen to get that, boost progesterone, to get the estrogen down, because it's high estrogen that is opposing thyroid problems. If a lady has depression, anxiety, panic attacks, boosting progesterone will boost the happy hormone. If a man has prostate problems, well, the good news is Comfort Yam Cream have just started to make a man yam cream. And the difference is, it's exactly the same, except they've put a few hormone or a few herbs in there that are specific for the prostate. And we have seen many guys manage their prostate problems by applying their yam cream. But for a man, they're not cyclic like a woman, so they just apply it twice a day, every day, whereas a woman applies it twice a day for 3 weeks of a month. So why would a woman in her 90s be applying it? Well, progesterone boosts the bone-building cells. So progesterone protects us, men and women, from osteoporosis. And I describe this in detail in my chapter in Sustain Me on better bones. So we have seen people come off their antidepressants by implementing lifestyle changes as well as applying the yam cream. We have seen people bring their thyroid back into balance by applying the yam cream and also the lifestyle changes that I outline in my book. We've seen ladies conquer their fibroids by taking the yam cream, applying it to bring that progesterone up and get that estrogen down, and at the same time apply castor oil compresses, which will penetrate deep and help to break up those fibroids. We've seen ladies with breast cancer able to conquer their breast cancer by applying the yam cream, which will boost progesterone, bring estrogen down. The Australian Health Department have stated that estrogen is a known human carcinogen. Because of its cell proliferator action, it can cause massive cell growth in the reproductive areas, even contributing to cancers in those reproductive organs. For breast cancer, it's vital that that progesterone be boosted to keep that, to bring that estrogen down, and also apply the castor oil compresses to the breast. So you will find all of these areas covered in my book, Self-Heal by Design, which targets cancer, and also Sustain Me, which defines it. In fact, I've got a chapter in there called Beautiful Breasts, and shows how that any problems in the breast can be managed by boosting progesterone with the yam cream. And also, if there are lumps or growths of any sort, the castor oil compresses can be applied. That's the good news, is that the body runs according to precision balance, and if that balance has been thrown out by the various things that we've looked at today, the good news is it can be brought back into balance. And to bring the hormones back into balance, we must eliminate anything that causes the imbalance. Look at implementing cabbage often, taking the vitamin Bs and applying that yam cream. We've also seen many couples be able to have children after applying the yam cream and getting the hormones balanced again. So there's so many areas that we've touched on that can always be helped by the yam cream. But what if the woman's hormones are balanced and she takes the yam cream? Is there a problem? Well, there is no toxic dose of progesterone. And I'd like to ask a question. Can you have too much happy hormone? I'd like to suggest that today we don't have enough happy hormone. But there's definitely a toxic dose of estrogen. So I thank you for your attention tonight, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night, where we will go to headquarters, the brain. Thank you.
Everybody, am I on? Yes, I have a voice. Good evening, everybody. My name is Emma, and I just want to, a lot of people have questions about the 3 books, so I just wanted to give a real quick overview of the 3 books to give you a better understanding of all 3. The red book, The Assassination of Barbara O'Neill, was written by my dad, And it is basically the story of how Mum got banned in Australia and her life work was. So her life wasn't assassinated, but her life work was assassinated. She cannot speak, lecture, or talk in Australia without 12 years in jail. That's a very, very interesting story. This is the green book, we call it, the Self-Heal by Design. This book is basically how disease gets a hold into the body, and it goes into depth into fungus and mold and cancer and candida. And then in the back is a whole bunch of Mum's favourite recipes. That book is the book that I sent to Amazon for 7 years for Dad, and then Amazon lost a whole bunch of the books because we sent them a lot, and that's how actually I got into starting my website, which is barbarao'neill.com. So this book sustained me. We hit the press on 4th of June 2024, and so, hang on. I need 2 hands. So the book Sustain Me is an acronym for the 9 laws of health. And so we have sunshine, use of water, sleep, trust in divine power, abstaining from harmful things, inhaling fresh air, nutrition, moderation, exercise. So this book is kind of like having Mum in your back pocket. And so she takes those 9 laws of health and aligns them with all the systems in the body. And so this book is absolutely fantastically gold. So, one last thing. On my website, which is barbarao'neill.com, we've created a coupon for those that for the next 30 days you can get free shipping, which is SAND, short for Sandpoint, SAND 2024. And so, God bless you, and thank you very much for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow night.
Thank you, Emma. To get those, and maybe our online audiences, or if you haven't brought the cash today, we'll be able to have them again tonight, Saturday night, and Sunday morning for the cooking class. We're really excited about these coming up, the 2 events. And also on the table as you go outside, because today we have talked about child health, Natural Healthcare for Your Child by Agatha Thrash is a must-have as well. If any of you have, how many have used this before? Some of you? Okay, very good. I have found this very useful when I talk to people and I do lifestyle counseling, coaching with them, and they have problems. I always refer to this, and Agatha Thrash also has some other couple of very good books like that. And a lot of you are familiar, I need 4 hands, are familiar with this Karubi latte. Is a carob powder that you can use kind of like a cocoa. And many of you know it from Heidi's Health Kitchen. Remember that? When we had Heidi Tompkins here with Ivan. And many have, the reason why this is a special formula, because it has the shilajit, and that is something that has, a lot of people has helped with hormones, and that was part of the lecture tonight. So that's why I wanted to point them out to you, and you can find them out on our table to the right, and the ladies will help you get some. Thank you.
All right. Can I pray for you? Let's bow our heads together. Father in heaven, I pray that you would bless each and every person who has come. Bless them with health, just as the letter of John says that we pray that you would be in health and prosper, even as your soul prospers. And so I pray for that for every person here in person, those who are tuning in online, and we thank you, Lord. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Be sure to pray for Barbara, because we want her here tomorrow night as well, right? All right. Well, have a good night, everyone. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you.
At 5 o'clock tomorrow, we'll live stream our music, our lovely music. It was live streaming. It's just that the video was set to private. So I'm sorry for that.
Okay, so 5 o'clock. And unfortunately, no more book signings. So those are finished. However, Emma told me you can purchase a signed book from their online store. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow night.